Hello, and thank you for joining. My name is Harman Tour, and today we will be talking about the ethnic influences on the United Arab Emirates cuisine. Now, before we get started, let's have a little introduction. There are three questions we need to ask. Where is the UAE? What ethnic groups influence their palate? And what are some popular dishes today? So, for some background, the United Arab Emirates, it is located on the Southeast Arab Peninsula in the Middle East. It borders the countries of Oman and Saudi Arabia. It is a very dry and arid country, mostly comprising of desert. The strategic location along the Arabian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman let the country have a strong sense of seafood, including fish, crabs, prawn, and other marine life. And this has become a staple of the Emirati diet for centuries. A significant portion of their terrain, as I said, is a desert. Because of this, it's very hard for farming and other agricultural foods to be grown. So they have to use the local ingredients such as dates, camel meat, and goat meat because these animals are very well assorted to the desert environment. Continued. The UAE's location has historically placed it at the major crossroads of major trade routes because it's along the Arabian Peninsula and has access to the ocean. They're able to import a lot of spices from different countries, and especially the proximity to India has made it a major trading hub for spices such as cardamom, saffron, and cinnamon. They also are in between Africa and the Eastern Asia, so they serve as a trade route and a trade hub in between. So this allows them to be a sort of melting pot of many countries include and their influences. So there are eight ethnic groups that have majorly influenced the Emirati cuisine. Those include the Arabic influences, Persian, Indian. I apologize for butchering this, but I think it's Balkis, Pakistani, Egyptians, East Africans, and Western expats. So Western expats is just a lot of Western countries, more modern countries, more first world countries, as we've seen that like with the rapid expansion of globalization, a lot of countries are kind of reaching out and branching and incorporating one another. So some influences that a lot of these countries have, a lot of these ethnic groups have. So the Arabic influence is pretty much the foundation of the Emirati cuisine. The cuisine is similar to a lot of Middle Eastern cuisines since it takes influence more like the great civilizations of the time. It includes lamb, rice, and spices. The Persian influence along because the UAE is located on the Persian Gulf. The Persian influences include Persian style rice and lamb and some Iranian sweets. As mentioned previously, because it is on the Arabian Peninsula and it serves as a major trading port and trading hub, and its proximity to India, the Emirati cuisine does take a lot of influence from Indian spices and dishes such as biryani and samosas. The Balukis ethnic group are known for their pastries and bread making techniques, and that influence is shown throughout the Emirati country. Pakistanis, the influence is the street food culture, like the karak chai and kebabs, along with their spices as well. For Egyptian influence, we have the desserts and pastries like baklava and Ali. And East Africans, this plays a part into the location of the UAE as well because they are on the coast and a Gulf country. They do have access to seafood, and because of that, they are able to make the seafood recipes, some coconut-based recipes like al mukbaza. And as I mentioned previously, Western expats, it's just the introduction of more international cuisines. It could be American food, French food, English food, along those lines, burgers, pastries. So the Arabic influence. So as I mentioned before, it is the foundation of the Emirati cuisine. It serves as a bedrock for their culinary traditions, including influencing their flavors, ingredients, and cooking techniques. A staple of Arabic cooking technique is to slow cook your food. It mirrors the Arabic method of slow roasting meats in underground pits. So you can think of it kind of like a tandoor oven. Key ingredients, Arabic influence, it is related to the use of rice, lamb, and spices, as mentioned before. And in the picture shown, we do have al majbouz, a spiced rice with meat. Moving on to the Persian influence. This is another great influence that goes along with the Emirati cuisine. Obviously, Arabic being the major influence, Persian would be the second most influential. So they have a culinary legacy because this is the Arabic Peninsula around the Persian Gulf. They have left an indelible mark on the UAE cuisine, including historical ties, and they foster culinary exchange, both enriching both of the cuisines. A signature dish is al kuzi, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Slow cooked rice and lamb, often garnished with nuts and raisins. As I mentioned before, because it is a very desert, arid, and dry and harsh terrain, it is going to be a lot of camel meat, goat meat, lamb meat, dates, stuff like that, just because they were more abundant. So as before there was trading ports, it was more abundant. The sweets as pastries in the back, I have shown zulbia. That is the one on the left. And then as you can see, even in this image, there is influence of other ethnic groups, such as the Indian ethnic group, because those look very similar to jalebis. But throughout the entire UAE, you can find a lot of Persian influenced sweets like baklava and zubia spread all throughout the area. The Indian influence. Spices and flavors. So because India has been known for its spices and due to the proximity and how close they are through the Arabian Peninsula across the Indian Ocean, it was very easy to import and export goods. So one of the imports that the UAE had during this globalization process was spices and flavors. So the UAE would often import cardamom, cumin, cinnamon, saffron, because these would enhance the flavors that they already had going on in their cuisine. They also took note and took great influence into incorporating biryani and samosas. So biryani is a fragrant rice dish often served with meat, could be chicken, seafood, or lamb. And samosas are little pastries that are often filled with vegetables, such as peas or tomatoes, but the UAE did put their own twist on it that will be mentioned later in this presentation. And they have a spice market tradition that allowed them to kind of move from a small shop to a bazaar style of so a bazaar is a small market, bazaar is an open air market. So allowed the UAE to kind of transition towards that and allow them to exchange spices more openly and freely, allowing everybody to have sort of an abundance of these spices and cook with them. I believe, again, sorry for butchering this, Baluchi's influence. So the Baluchi's influence has been known for their pastry making and the traditional bread preparation and their techniques. So they are experts in traditional bread making techniques, and they often add diversity to their local offerings. On the image shown, I have what is called al sambusa. It is very similar to samosa as mentioned before, but this one is filled with different types of meats and savory fillings. And traditionally, the bread making techniques have been integrated into the Emirati cuisine. So the Pakistani influence is similar to the Indian influence in the sense of that region that the UAE is importing from has very similar spice palettes. But one thing that the UAE has adopted in its cuisine is the street food culture. So Pakistan has a very vibrant street food culture that the UAE has adopted. That includes stuff like the karak chai, as shown on screen, which is a tea including you put cinnamon, some spices, you put ginger in there, you put what's called long and lachi. I think the Americans call them cloves, I believe are what they're called. Sorry, I'm not too sure what the words translate to. And they also have started to integrate more stuff like kebabs over the last few centuries, which is just a skewer of ground meat with spices. So right here, karak chai and kebabs. They're often served, the chai is often served with sweet pastries, and it's often a tradition to serve it when guests come over. And it's a very hospitable thing to do. So cultural exchange, the UAE's multicultural society fosters a blend of Pakistani and Emirati culinary traditions, and this would reflect back on the guests and the hospitality. When someone comes to visit, you do offer them some chai. Egyptian influence. As it is located very close to Egypt and served as sort of an in-between between Egypt and the rest of the African continent and the East Asian continent, there's a great deal of influence here, and that is often reflected in the pastries and the desserts, since the Egyptian culinary traditions have significantly influenced the world of desserts in the UAE. This image shown is baklava, and I apologize for the watermark. I couldn't get it off. So yes, notable desserts are baklava and Ali. Baklava, the variations in the UAE have changed, while traditional baklava may just be a layered pastry with pistachios or almonds. The UAE has incorporated local ingredients and flavors. Sometimes there are dates on top or pistachios. Ali delights a warm, comforting dessert, and it reflects the Egyptian influence on Emirati sweets served with spices and nuts. And phyllo dough mastery. So the use of phyllo dough and honey nuts in Egypt has found a place in the culinary traditions, and this is why there's often sweetened bread served at meals. East African influence. So again, because of the proximity to Africa, there has been a large East African influence, and because they are along the coast, there has been a giant seafood influence. So East African culinary influence is evident in the use of seafood and incorporation of coconut-based recipes in the UAE. Signature dishes include al mukbaza, a prominent Emirati dish, is a flavorful fish stew. Historically, trade and cultural ties between East Africa and the UAE have paved the way for this culinary exchange. And then finally, we have the Western expats influence. This is just something that happens as the world expands, as transportation and economies open up. So the introduction of international cuisines. Its Western expatriates have influenced a significant role in introducing international culinary traditions to the UAE. This includes such things such as Italian pasta, French pastries, American burgers, and British pub fare. Even though it is a Middle Eastern country, there are some pubs. There are fusion dishes where they will mix American ingredients or French ingredients into their own local cuisine to give it a new twist. And there are new innovative ways to cook. Some popular Emirati dishes, we have salona, which is a hearty stew made with veggies and meat. I tried to find a picture of it, but unfortunately it wasn't working or wasn't loading. And then finally, we have shawarma, which is a very popular dish just in the Middle East itself. So it's originally from the Levant region, kind of north of the Arabian Peninsula, and it's often served on a warm pita bread with your choice of grilled meat, veggies, and tahini sauce. And in conclusion, so because of the area and the landscape, there is a very large multicultural society influenced by these ethnic groups, including the Arabic ethnic group, Persian, Indian, Balukis, Pakistani, Egypt, and East Africans. There's a cultural exchange. So because it is a trading hub and because the popularity of Dubai has suddenly skyrocketed, over the last century, there has been a huge change in their cuisine. They are adopting more ingredients, more cooking styles from all over the world. But despite this, the Emirati cuisine still remains a symbol of their culture and pride. You can find traditional dishes served throughout the year on holidays at any restaurants. They still have a sense of pride in their traditional cuisine. And thank you.